saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Actually, Mark, can you adjust this? I'm all crooked here, I'm not straight. Why is that? Just a second, there's some technical difficulties. Yeah, it looks like I'm leaning that way instead. Okay, be straight. I'll just leave it that way. These technical issues. Okay, friends, so we're continuing our look at the Dhammapada verses. And last week we did the chapter on the Attavagga, the chapter on the self. Now, this week we're going to be looking at chapter 13, the Lokavagga, or the world, according to the Buddha. So again, I'm going to read the verse in Pali, and then the English meaning, and the story. Inam dhammam na saveya pamadena na samvasi micca ditting na saveya nasya lokavandano. Do not serve mean ends. Do not live in heedlessness. Do not embrace false views. Do not be a world upholder. Okay, now some of these English translations may not understand the meanings. Do not serve mean ends. It means don't get too infatuated with sensual pleasures and just serve the desires of the ego and so on, and get caught up in the negative type of karmic thoughts and actions that lead to more problems. So mean ends. Do not live in heedlessness. I think we all know what heedless means. Unmindfulness, not tending to the Dhamma. And do not embrace false views. Like I guess be a QAnon follower or something like that. But basically it means the false views about there's no such thing as karma, there's no need to do anything, there's nothing gonna happen, there's no life after death, or, nobody's better than anybody else, and so on. And then do not be a world upholder. So a world upholder is interesting. It means being subject to the rounds of birth and death. So, according to Dhamma, as long as our mind is dominated by greed, hatred, and delusion, then we keep on accumulating more and more karma. And then being reborn on account of that in the different realms, filling up the human realm, the Deva realm, and all these other realms where people are. That means we're a world upholder. We're upholding, or making to continue the conditioned worlds, and of course the suffering that comes along with the conditioned worlds. So, the Buddha isn't mincing any words. He's a tough character. He doesn't give in to any, nonsense in terms of ignorance. So, some people have a difficulty, palating these, some of these phrases that the Buddha speaks. But I like that term, a world upholder. That means perpetuating the world of samsara, and so on. And so there's a story behind this verse. A young novice monk, I guess, had been, going out for alms, as a novice monk in the village collecting alms and so on. And people used to call him a shaveling. So shaveling means that they had a shaved head. And the other ascetics at the time, most of them had longer hair. The yogi ascetics or Vedic sages and so on. They had long hair. So because the Buddha shaved their head, had the monks shave their heads, they called them shaveling. So it was a kind of a denigrating term. And so this young novice got offended at that. And nobody was able to pacify this young novice. He got upset when people were calling him a shaveling. Well, they called the Buddha that. The Buddha didn't really get upset about it. And the Buddha adopted a conciliatory attitude toward the young monk. That means he didn't, scold the young novice and so on. He had compassion for him, and won the heart of this novice. And because of that, on that occasion, the Buddha uttered this verse. That he stopped getting upset about people calling him names and so on. So the world, and the world according to the Buddha, or the world according to the Dhamma, doesn't mean this earth or the solar system. I mean, on one hand it does, but it's not the real meaning. The world is how our mind creates its video projection of the world. Because basically our mind is a video camera, a movie projector. And it's just taking in vibrations, pixels through the senses, and then projecting that out onto the screen of consciousness, that then things appear to be, look to be like a smooth flowing scenes and things standing out in time and space, and the illusion of how we perceive the world is there. And so, and the past and the future. So really the world to the Buddha is the world of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. And the scenarios that our mind is creating, our loves and hates and attachments and aversions, and all of its mental states, depression, dejection, whatever, these are created in the mind. So that's the world according to the Dhamma, not so much this physical earth. So that's something that's very difficult for an ordinary person to wrap their head around. Again, I use these phrases, if you stand out in front of Walmart or Home Depot or somewhere, and, ask some people, what is the world? They're going to look at you strange. What do you mean, what is the world? You're crazy? So Okay, now we're going to skip over a couple of verses to verse number 4. Again, I'll chant the Pali to the verse. Yata bubulakam pase yata pase marichikam evam lokam avekantam machurajana pasati. Just as one would look upon a bubble, like a water bubble, just as one would look upon a mirage, if a person thus looks upon the world, the king of death sees him not. So again, this is it. This is not an ordinary statement, and so look upon a bubble. Let's say a water bubble. Let's say you see a water bubble, some bubbles floating on a surface of a pond, or a river, and they just last a minute or two, and they burst, and become nothing. So while the bubble is there, the bubble looks like it's something real, but when it bursts, you realize it's just kind of an illusion. Or you look upon a mirage, right? You're out in the desert and you're thirsty, and you see what appears to be a body of water out in front of you, and oh, it's water. You start walking toward it, and you never get there. It's a mirage. So the same way, that's the way the Buddha asks us to look upon this this mundane world, this world of multitudinous objects, and the world of this earth and all the things in the earth, because of its impermanence and fleeting nature. And it could be blown up, it could be caused destroyed by so many things very quickly. Maybe not the earth itself, of course. It could also happen if a big enough meteor plows into the earth, which they're have worries about, right? That it could also disappear. So anyway, he has us look upon this world. The king of death sees him not. The king of death refers to Mara. I mean, it's death in general, because death catches people unawares, right? One day they're healthy, and the next day they get a diagnosis from the doctor saying, they could be dead within a week or 2 or 6 months, and nothing can stop that, like what's happening nowadays in the pandemic, especially places like India now and places like that. So they said the king of death sweeps people away. That means just the reality that these bodies could be killed and died in many different ways unexpectedly. So that's called the Lord of Death. That means just the reality of impermanence and death. So a person who's attained liberation and enlightenment, then they've already surmounted death, because death really in the Dhamma, again, is ego death. It's not death of the physical body, although that is a death, but it's not the ultimate death, because when a normal person dies, they're reborn again. But when an enlightened person leaves the last body, they don't call it dying. They call it attaining parinibbana, because it refers to, it's gone beyond the ego. The ego has died, but the mind has attained the liberated state, which cannot be explained in words. It's beyond any kind of words. But anyway, so that's the way the Buddha wanted us to. Basically, it's the 5 aggregates. The world, everything in the world is grouped within the 5 aggregates: physical form, feeling, perception, volition and all the mental states and emotions and the memory and so on. And the consciousness, especially the consciousness dominated by thoughts of I, me, and mine. So that is the world, and that's what all of our experience can fall in one of those five groups of feeling, of material vibration, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. And that's what we identify as myself, and also the world. The world, our idea of the world is basically a projection from these five aggregates. Now, the story behind this. So, the Buddha had, these were meditation subjects that the Buddha had taught to the monks. So the monk, the Buddha was telling the monks, regard the world as a bubble. So many monks were using that. They actually followed the Buddha's advice. Not these days where teachers may give you advice and you may not follow it. But anyway, reflecting on a mirage and on bubbles of water, many monks attained arahantship. I mean, that just like that, And concerning their attainment, the Buddha uttered this verse when he saw these monks attaining, enlightenment by just watching the bubbles on a river floating by, and the bubbles are just arising and vanishing like that. And it opened up their mind, and they saw the arising and vanishing of their own consciousness and the emptiness of their own ego sense of I and self, and attained enlightenment because of that. Actually, the Buddha in some other verses, the Buddha reflected that the aggregate of form, the material form, like the cells of this body, what we regard as a 130-pound solid body, is just cells, vibrating cells with space in between them. Somebody was just the other day was telling me, science says that, the body is basically, 80 or more % just space. There's space between every cell in the body. So and so on, or water too. So anyway, he says, regard material form like foam floating on a river. Because if you were to get a stick and what might, from a distance, foam floating on a river might look like, a solid piece of like styrofoam. But when you get up close to it and you put a stick and shake it, the foam just scatters and dissipates into nothing. So in the same way, the four elements, elemental vibrations, I gave a whole talk on this just last week. So, and then the feelings should be regarded like the water bubbles. The perceptions be regarded as like a mirage, because they would create something out of nothing, basically. You hear a sound and the mind creates the idea of a bird or your friend talking or Bhante talking. These are the perceptions created within the mind. So anyway, perceptions like a mirage, and the mental formations, the habit formations of the mind are like the coreless inside of a banana tree. So if you're familiar with banana trees, if you peel away, or even the onion, let's say, might be more familiar with an onion. Peel away all the layers of an onion. In the center, there's no real solid core. It's just, just so many layers. So the same way, there's no core of a me or I deep within the mind. And then consciousness is like a magician's trick. So that means the ego is drawn out of a hat. It basically refers to the ego consciousness. It's a magician. Like it appears, but it, we get tricked into thinking this belongs to us. So the consciousness is like a magical illusion. So now go on to this verse number. Let's go to number 6. I'll read the verses of number 6. Yo cha pumbe pamajitva pachaso napapam jati so imam lokam pabaseti abamutova chandima. Whoever was heedless before and afterwards is not, that means afterwards they become heedful, such a person illuminates this world like the moon freed from clouds. So this refers basically to a person who's, like everybody at some point is sunk in ignorance, and then they attain, let's say, either a jhana, some altered state of consciousness, some deep insight, or better yet, attaining, entering the stream or any of the 4 stages of enlightenment. And they gave up that heedlessness, foolish actions in the world, and become, committed to the practice of Dhamma and have, steady mindfulness. So they illumine this world like the moon freed from clouds. Again, it illumines this world the way our mind is seeing the world. That's why it's called illumination. And it's not so much a bright light as it is just the clear consciousness that sees the illusion of the, the normal sort of world, the illusory aspect of this world, the physical world. So it's like the moon freed from clouds. So you know the difference if you look up on a moon, a full moon night, and then it's covered with clouds. There may be some light, but it's, it's not that bright. But then the moon comes out behind the clouds and so brilliant. So the same way, that's the light of wisdom, the light of insight. And the story behind this, there was a monk who was constantly sweeping all the rooms of the monastery. So maybe he had something like, obsessive compulsive disorder where, thought everything was dirty all the time. And so he was constantly sweeping the monastery. And, monks were coming and going all the time, and they went barefoot a lot. And so naturally they were probably tracking in dirt and other things like that. So anyway, this monk was always obsessed with sweeping the monastery. And he was neglecting his meditation, in other words. So he was caught up in just all this cleaning and neglecting his meditation. And then he was advised by some arahants, hey, don't spend so much time sweeping. Sweeping may be okay, but don't neglect your meditation. Take time out. A little bit of dust here and there is not going to be a big thing. Take time out and meditate. So he took their advice. And this monk started meditating, and it changed his attitude. That means he probably got some insights, and then realized it was better to sweep his mind. Instead of sweeping the dirt from the monastery, the external dirt, he would sweep his whatever could have been pride. Maybe this monk had a little pride, or he had some other sort of negative thoughts in his mind. Maybe think, oh, these lazy monks are all just sitting around meditating. They don't even clean the place. He could have had thoughts like that, right? So anyway, he started meditating and then understood his obsession. Now we're going to go over to verse number 8. Anada bhuto ayam loko tanuketi vipassati sakunto jalamutto aposagaya gacchati. Blind is this world. Few are those who clearly see. As birds escape from a net, few go to a blissful state. So what he means is this world is blind. That means from the Dhamma point of view. So people who don't know the Dhamma and are just caught in eat, drink, and be merry, and so much attachments to all the sensual things, and caught up in greed and hatred and delusion and so on, and not understanding the world for what it is, as a bubble, as we've already mentioned. So these people are blind from the Dhamma point of view. That means they might have perfectly good 20/20 vision with their fleshy eyes, but they're blind from the Dhamma point of view, and just following their base desires and conditions. So few are those who, break through that illusion, and develop that clear vision, as we've already mentioned. As birds escape from a net. So birds get caught up in a net, and maybe a couple escape, and the rest get doomed, or come to their death. But only a few may escape. So in that way, only a few people escape the net of Mara. So oftentimes that's also another phrase the Buddha used, the net of Mara, Mara's net, or like a blindfold. Mara's put a blindfold over our head. So all we see is I, me, and mine, and our conditioning, and don't see the truths of Dhamma. So the story of this is that there was a devout daughter of a weaver who came to hear the Buddha, and she answered 4 enigmatic questions. Enigmatic, not sure what that means, but it might mean some kind of not easy to understand, that the Buddha asked her, and the audience could not understand. So evidently, this lady came to hear some Dhamma talk from the Buddha, and there was other people there listening. And the Buddha probably knew this lady had some good intelligence. So he asked her some more deeper pointed questions, thinking she might not be able to answer, but she answered them. And the people around her were scratching their heads, and how's this weaver's daughter know the answer to these things? So then the Buddha explained that there is few people that can clearly see. And even though this person was a daughter of a weaver, that means probably a low caste type of person that most people would consider, unintelligent or so on. And these other Brahmins or others, couldn't answer the questions. So Now, verse number 9. Hamsa Ditchapate Yanti Akase Yanti Idiya Niyanti Dira Lokama Jetva Maram Sadivinim. Swans wing along the path of the sun. Men go through air by the psychic powers. The wise are led away from the world, having conquered Mara and his host. So, like swans effortlessly fly through the world, anywhere they want to go, they just fly. And then people who have psychic powers, of course, not that many people have psychic powers these days, but we read in the ancient days, people could travel by psychic powers, arahants and some others. But the wise person is led away from this world, the world of delusion. So without being a swan who flies in the air, or without having psychic power to actually, kind of fly this physical body somewhere, the wise person leaves the world through wisdom. Again, the world of attachment, the world of greed, hatred, and delusion, having conquered Mara and his host. And the story behind this is some monks came to see the Buddha, and hearing the Dhamma, they attained arahantship. And they got the psychic powers. So sometimes when you attain arahantship, that means full enlightenment, you may spontaneously also acquire psychic powers. We read that it happened many times. And then, so these monks had walked to the monastery. That means before they attained arahantship, they had to walk with their legs to the monastery. And having developed the psychic powers, they flew through the air. So after hearing the talk of the Buddha, or during the talk, they attained arahantship, acquired these psychic powers, and then they left flying through the air. And Venerable Ananda, the Buddha's attendant, who had seen them walk in, noticed their absence and inquired of the Buddha where they had gone. And at that moment, when Ananda was asking the Buddha, hey, where did these monks go? They walked in, all of a sudden, now they're not here. I didn't see them walk out. And at that moment, some swans were flying through the air. And then the Buddha made this comment, remarked that arahants who possess psychic powers go through the air like swans. So again, it's very difficult for the ordinary person to understand that. Okay, now we're going to look at just one last verse, the last verse in chapter 13, world. And this is verse number 12 in the chapter, Lokavaga chapter, or verse 178 in the overall Dhammapada. Pataveya ekarajena sagasa gamanena va sabalokadipachena sotapati palamvaram. Better than absolute sovereignty over the earth, better than going to heaven, better than even lordship over all the worlds, is the fruit of stream winning. That means the mind of a Sotapanna, having entered the stream. So, better than being a king ruling over the whole earth, better than going to any of the heavens, is the attainment of the stream. That means the stream that leads to Nibbana. And the story on this is a story about Anathapindika. So I think many of you have heard of Anathapindika. He was the millionaire, that rich man who supported the Buddha and the Sangha. And the millionaire kind of induced his son to hear the Dhamma from the Buddha by offering him a 1,000 gold coins. So the son wasn't very interested in listening to the Dhamma. I mean, he was the son of this rich man, right? So he had everything he wanted, but still then his father said, look, dear son, Anathapindika was really a pious devotee of the Buddha. So he really wanted his son also to, hear the Dhamma, but the son wasn't inclined. So he enticed him. He said, look, I'll give you 1,000 gold coins if you just go one time to hear a sermon by the Buddha. So tempted by the reward, he went to the Buddha and heard the Dhamma talk and became a stream winner. And thereupon the Buddha commented on the superiority of spiritual advancement over all worldly possessions. And it doesn't mention it in this brief story here, but I think the son, after attaining stream winner, he went back home and said, Dad, you don't have to give me those gold coins, I like the Dhamma. I'll go hear the Dhamma, without any, I don't need to get the money to go. So I like that. So friends, those are the verses in the Loka Vagga. And if anybody has any, comments or questions about any of those, we can, have a little time for that. Let's see, there's one chat here. Let me see. When meditating, we are often reminded to focus on the present, ignoring the past and future. The Buddha's instructions often say, not regarding the world, subduing the greed and distress with reference to the world. The distressing situation in India due to COVID is blamed on the failure to plan properly, when there was possibility of a second wave. To plan for the future, we need to take past into account as well. That's true. I mean, when it says don't regard the past or future, that means don't be obsessed with it and don't try to plan every single detail of the future and depend on that. But we, having common sense, we, on a relative sense, we have to be aware, things will happen, and, to take actions accordingly, especially if it's something that kind of that serious. So it doesn't mean, it means disregard, all those things, like, don't disregard your health just because you don't let your body go to ruin and then you get sick or weak and you can't meditate. And Buddha wouldn't agree with that, because we can see the Buddha himself, right? He practiced self-mortification and fasting for 5 years or more, and then he got so weak he couldn't meditate, couldn't sit up straight anymore, and had no energy to meditate. So he said, I'm going to take the middle path. So he started eating again. So he was concerned with the future. You wanted to attain enlightenment, right? You've been going for 5 years treading the path to enlightenment. So he had the future in mind. And to take care of it, he realized, I'm not going to attain enlightenment if I keep starving the body. So he took the middle path. He started eating food again. And he just he avoided the extremes, right? So anyway, we have to, be aware of the future, but not try to, plan everything. And then also if things come up, then, there has to be a plan B.
Bhante, can I ask you one question?
Okay.
Yes. It's about that simile, that the sensation as bubble, the perception as mirage, and the mental formation as I lost this point.
The mental formation should be seen like the hollow core of a banana tree.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
All the outer layers, and inside there's no I or me there. There's nothing solid. It's just empty space in the hollow core. Yeah.
Thank you.
I thought there was another chat. No, I can't see it now. Oh, with regards to the reference about the monk who was sweeping, being advised to meditate, it's my understanding that there are periods that monks are also advised to do periods of work to keep the monastery clean. That's right. And probably this monk was giving initially when he came to the monastery, he was given that's usually the first job they give anybody who comes to the monastery. Here, take this broom and go out and sweep. But they're supposed to sweep with mindfulness. But this monk, maybe he didn't want to, then the bell rang for time to meditate, and he didn't want to meditate. And he thought, oh, that other monk over there don't sweep properly. Maybe he didn't like the way the other monks were sweeping. So he thought he would do it better. I don't know. But anyway, this monk was kind of overdoing it. So therefore, yes. But in many monasteries, they do work to keep the monastery in good repair, because that was part of the Buddha's instructions. You can't always get lay people to come and do all the work for you. And he advised people to work, but work with mindfulness, right? So got to do the work with mindfulness. Okay, I guess that's all. Any last questions? Anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question? Like here, even at the Lion of Wisdom, we're in the middle of remodeling the horse stable, and myself and another person who are here, we go out and but we meditate every morning and every evening and do these programs in between. But then in between, we go out and do some work, because people promise to come and help, and then they call up the day before saying, well, my sister's had a baby, or somebody's gotten sick and I can't come. So if we waited on people to come and do the work, then not much work would get done. Or if we had to pay other people to come and work, then I'd have to be spending more time on the internet. Oh, please give donations, send money. We got to, in the cost of building these rooms would be 2 or 3 or more times as much. But I use the work as meditation also, and it's work for Dhamma. So anyway, there's nothing wrong with the work. It's the way that you do it and your attitude to it. and not to neglect your practice of meditation also.
Bhante, can I ask just one question?
Yes.
One of the things we're also studying right now, Bhante, has to do with dukkha, so reflection on suffering. And one of the things I realized with reflection on Dhamma and also insight is aware of the feelings of suffering, that anything outside of equanimity is basically dukkha. Even the feeling of what looks like happiness is agitation in the mind. It's not happiness, it's fake happiness, it's agitation in the mind. It's not just pain that's suffering, it's also what we think is happiness. And also what I realized is this thinking of happiness is related to clinging. We think we're happy and we want this happiness to last forever. And so the mind clings to this feeling of happiness. And through this clinging, it causes itself to suffer because it already projects in the future with the possibility of losing what is there, this good feeling. And so that's how that's my understanding of how what we think is happiness in the conventional term is actually suffering. So this is where I had this understanding of the connection between dukkha and grasping. What are your comments on this?
Oh, that's right. Dukkha and grasping, that is the connection. And because the happiness, ordinary happiness, always depends on something else, some kind of situation. You're clinging, identifying with one of the aggregates. But because these are impermanent and they won't last, whatever happiness arises with that is going to pass away. And that is why the Buddha termed it as dukkha, because it's not dependable. It depends on somebody else. You have a friendship and you're depending on that for your happiness, and that other person changes and you can't control it, and then you become happy. So that's the meaning. And so in equanimity, when the mind is freed from clinging and attachment, then when it's established in the flow of present moment awareness with equanimity, and when things change, the mind is not clinging on to it. And so it doesn't suffer because it's grounded in present moment awareness, and it's not dependent on the things that are coming and going through this present moment awareness. But because people are not grounded in present moment awareness, they are depending on that particular object, one of the five aggregates, for its identification, for its feel good, the feeling, or anything else.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay. Okay, friends, I think maybe we'll...
Bhante,
yes?
I have a question. Do you have time?
Okay.
Otherwise, I can leave it next time.
Well,
But it follows on from the previous one. I know it is the Dhamma helps very much in the most of the time your health is very good, but as we age, the health doesn't last, so it falls away. So one thing is you can read about the Dhamma and so on, but the general feeling is that reading about the Dhamma is useful, but the practice is more important, and the practice helps you to be equanimous in these difficult conditions. When you have ups and downs, the Attaloka Dhamma in real life.
yes, of course. And especially in terms of this body, to be able to look at your own body and then You know, when you can't walk so stable anymore, you lose your balance, or you're starting forgetting things because we're identified to this body and in the past or the future, the way I was before, and then we're projecting into the future. You know, that's what, you know, causes us to get upset. But to look upon this own body as just a bubble, you know, and when the mind is more grounded, more consistently grounded in present moment awareness, you have that feeling is there more in your mind that this body is just, you know, a body, and you know, you accept that, you know, those things are going to happen, and it doesn't really disturb your consciousness. It doesn't disturb that deeper tranquility, because it's not attached to the outer or even the inner things that are happening and changing in the body. Because again, it's grounded to the present moment awareness, which doesn't change. Present moment awareness doesn't change. Objects are changing, but the deathless state, you know, it's not changing. It was never born and never dies, and that's basically what the, you know, present moment awareness is. And once you get grounded and connected to that, then whatever is happening in or around it doesn't affect you so much. Okay, friends. So why don't we take a few minutes break and come back and then do a few stretches and then have our meditation. Okay. screen. Okay, friends. So, stand straight. You gently close your eyes. Feel the feet pressing the floor. Relax your arms and hands at the side. Feel your head balanced on top. Begin some deep, slow breathing. If you know the 3-part breathing, do that. Expand the bottom, middle, and top of the lungs. Feel that expansion in the upper chest. Holding the air in the lungs 2 or 3 seconds. And slowly breathe out. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. Just thinking like this to yourself as you take a few more deep, slow breaths. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. On the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms. Stretch your head back, bend the back a little bit. Feel the sensation. The out breath, turn the hands down, touch the top of the head. And in breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back. Out breath, touch the head. Third time, hold that upward stretch longer. Bend back a little more. Release the fingers, the out breath, arms back to the side. Relax, close the eyes, just keep the attention focused on the body, feel the increased body sensation, sensations on the clothing touching the skin, inner sensation, heart beating, blood pulsing, tingling sensation, any aches or pain. If you can't feel anything like that, just remember standing. Standing. Just letting go of your thoughts. Just let the thoughts come and go in the back of the awareness. Keeping the breathing body in the front of the awareness. And the next in-breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms up this way over the head, facing the hands toward each other. Stretch. Out breath, come back down. Use the in-breath to help lift the body up. In. Out. in. Relax. Close the eyes. Feeling his breathing and other sensation. Present moment awareness, grounded in the body. And next we'll do the side bendings, breath, with both arms up over the head, the fingers and arms straight, the out breath, bend over the right side, and keep the arms parallel to each other. In breath, lift it. And the other side, out breath. Into the right, out. Out. Once more to each side. The out breath, lower the arms. Relax. Keep feeling the body. Clothing touching the outer skin. Inner, subtler sensation. Now spread the feet apart. Wider the better. Hold the hands together at the chest. Breathe in, hands over the head. Out breath, hands to the chest, and bend the knees and lower down. And keep the back upright. And stretch the hips and knees. In breath all the way up. Out. Out. Out breath. Feel each foot pressing the floor. Hands touching the legs. Clothing touching the skin on different places. mind time to wander in thoughts. There's always some sensations in the body to feel. Present moment sensation. Yeah, my mind just immediately wanders into thoughts, speculation. The body is the only real anchor to the present moment. Now hold the arms out to the side. We'll do twisting from right to left. Breathe in. On the out breath, twist to the right. Look at the right hand going backward. In breath back to the front. In to the left, out breath. Back front. Let the feet turn with the body. Again to the right, out breath. Relax. Keep feeling the body. Don't give the mind time to escape into thought. Feeling the feet pressing the floor. The arms and hands at the side. Clothing touching the skin. Now bring the legs and feet back closer together. Standing straight, your head turning in breath, head to the right. Look over the right shoulder. Out breath left. Look over the left shoulder. In breath right. Left. Right. With the end breath, let the head stop in the middle. Just relax. Okay, one last exercise, the backward and forward bending. Be careful with the back bend, holding the hands outward. On the in-breath, lift the arms up and gradually spread them out to the sides as you bend back. Keep the eyes open. Carefully lift up on the in-breath, keeping the arms out at the sides, and then in the out breath, lower the arms and hands down towards the floor. Keep the legs straight. The bones of the lower spine stretch out. Begin standing up, turn the palms outward again. In breath, open the arms out to the side. Head back. In breath, lift up. Again, out breath. In. Out. In breath, standing up, and the hands to the chest. Out breath back to the sides. Feel the whole body vibrating, pulsating with activated life force. Try to feel or imagine that the whole body has been washed and bathed, oxygenated blood and life force, permeating and saturating the whole body, mind, nervous system, present moment, awareness, energy. Okay, we'll come back to our seats for the meditation. was that? Okay, friends, so try to sit straight. Keep the head and spine in a straight line. Just gently close your eyes. Bring your attention down to feel where the buttocks press the seat. Just feel that solid contact or pressure. Just knowing that is the earth vibration, feeling of hardness. And feel the feet and toes underneath. Feel the subtle sensations in the feet where they're crossed. Feel your hands and fingers, so the earth vibration, hands, fingers touching each other, where they touch the body. Feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulder. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the shoulder. And feel the head balanced on top of the neck. Feel the sensations on the face. Have the idea of the skin stretched over the front of the skull. Feel the lips touching together. Feel the tongue laying in the mouth. The tongue may touch any teeth. Ability to focus on these places and feel the sensations there. Powerful form of concentrated awareness. Now feel the eyes resting in the socket, and the eyelids stretched over the eyeballs. Sort of watching your own eyes sitting there in the head. The eye of awareness, like a video camera. Our own built-in video camera. So from that spot behind the eyes, feel all the different sensations in the face. Feel the nose in the front, and lips and mouth, and the inside view. And pan the video camera of awareness downwards to feel the shoulders, the upper chest, the arms, hands, the stomach, feeling the clothing touching the skin, those different places. Going down to feel the buttocks pressing the seat, and the legs bent underneath, the feet and toes. And just open up the lens of awareness to feel the outline of the whole body. The feet and buttocks below, the arms and hands at the sides, the head on top. Just being aware of sitting. It's the present moment awareness. Centered, grounded in the body. Just feeling the aliveness of the sitting body. So many different sensations. And begin taking a few deep, slow breaths again to feel the more dynamic, expanding and contracting the breathing process. It'll take 2 or 3 seconds to expand the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. like we were doing in the yoga, hold the air in a couple of seconds. Feel the relaxing contractions of the out breath. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. Just take a few more deep, slow breaths like that, cultivating this basic awareness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. We're going to count our breaths from 1 to 10 to try to maintain a more constant focus on the breathing. Still try to take some deeper breaths. With the next expanding in breath, count 1. Hold the air in the lungs a bit. With the contracting out breath, we'll count 1. The next expanding in breath, 2. Contracting out breath, 2. In breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In breath, 4. Out breath, 4. In breath, 5. Out breath, 5. In breath, 6. Out breath, 6. In breath, 7. Out breath, 7. In breath, 8. Out breath, 8. In breath, 9. Out breath, 9. In breath, 10. Out breath. 10. Now discontinue the counting. Discontinue any deeper controlled breathing. Just let the breathing return to its shorter, subtler rhythm. We continue to feel it. Just turn up the power of the mental microscope to feel the subtler, expanding and contracting sensation. Just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it, feeling the sensation. Try to feel the 4 phases of each breath. Sensations of the incoming breath, the brief pause. Sensations of the outgoing breath, the brief pause. Noticing the pauses between the breaths is important. Because it's the connection, the pause is the connection between the in-breath and the out-breath. Or the out-breath and the next in-breath. Observe how each breath is different. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. The in-breath is longer than the out-breath. Or the out-breath is longer than the in-breath. The pauses are sometimes longer or shorter. Just be like a scientist in the laboratory. Observing an experiment. There's many little different sensations connected with each breath. The in-breath arises and stops. The out-breath begins in. It's called impermanent. And all the little sensations with the breath are also changing very quickly, arising, vanishing. At the same time, be alert for thoughts or urges coming into the mind. If the mind gets caught up in thinking, recognize it as thinking, let go of the thought. Keep coming back to the breathing process. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. The mind is calm and centered enough. Start to notice, be aware of the five aggregates. This is material vibration, vibrations of the body, and the pleasant or painful feelings that come with those. It's the feeling. The perception is the mind naming or labeling or identifying different body parts or objects. Sankharas are the mental reactions of like and dislike or other various thoughts, decisions. Then the ego consciousness, changing thoughts of I, me, or mine. The feelings of I, me, or mine. Either just arising, vanishing, changing along with the breathing. You can contemplate these five aggregates, material form, the vibrations like froth floating on the water. They appear to be something real, but it's just condensed energy, vibrations of cells, molecules, atoms. Any pleasant or painful feelings that arise, like water bubbles that appear in the water, then burst and disappear. And our perceptions like a mirage. Like if you hear a sound and you say that's some object, it's just a mental picture arising in your mind. The sound disappears, the picture disappears. Like the feeling of your own body might disappear. Your various thoughts and decisions, likes and dislikes, have no essential core. They're just mental bubbles also. Even the sense of ourself, the I or me or mine, like a illusion, magician pulling a rabbit out of the hat. Pull the sense of I, me or mine out of these fleeting aggregates. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Vibrations come and go. Feelings, perceptions, thoughts come and go. Ideas of I, me, or mine come and go. These are all just a continuous flow of impermanence and change of the five aggregates of the body-mind process. Just beneath all of that change or chaos or sleepiness, it's the parallel dimension of the now, the present moment awareness. Grounded in the body. Sabbi sankhara anicchati. Sabbi sankhara dukkati. Sabbi dhamma anattati. Yada panyaya pasati. Atani bindati dukhi. Yesamagnu visuddhiya. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to change and vanish away. And all impermanent things, when clung to with ignorance, bring confusion and suffering. And all of the conditioned dhammas, as well as the unconditioned deathless state, are without any owner or controller. They're not I, me, or myself. When one understands these three characteristics with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to freedom. Thus spoke the Buddha. And if you like, I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times. Slowly, place the hands together at the chest if you like. Take a deep breath. Sadhu. 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 And place the hands at the edge of the knees. Take a deep, slow breath. Stretch the head back. Pull the hands against the knees to arch the lower spine. And lift the head up, and on an out breath, press the chin to the top of the chest. Stretch the neck vertebrae. And lift the chin up level on an in-breath. And relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. So I hope that you're able to have a peaceful or insightful meditation period. I'm glad you could all join today. If anybody has any last sort of comments or questions they might like to ask, you could unmute yourself and say something or ask a question if you like.
Thank you, Bhante, for your wisdom.
You're welcome, Fabiana. Are you feeling better now, Fabiana?
Yes, pretty much. I did a walk of 1 hour and 30 minutes, and it was good to be in nature.
Yes. Nature vibrations help to stimulate the nature that's within ourself. That means the pure energy ourselves, the body and so on, get activated by that contact with the natural vibrations of nature.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Bhante.
Namo Buddhaya, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you very much.
So friends, be safe, be well, be mindful and wise during the week, and we'll see you again either on Wednesday or next Sunday. Don't forget, mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. Sutta a day keeps delusions away. And the present moment awareness is always there, just beneath your nose, inviting you to come and see by doing the M&M, coming to